Hey guys, welcome back. In today's video, we are talking about the huge AMC numbers, how AMC can 2x in one day, the brokers failing, and many more in this video. First, we're taking a look at this. $20 million difference between estimated and actual numbers. I've never seen this huge gap. 93 million is a new number after Sunday actual numbers. So what we're looking at is just how fast the box office is growing. And so for Q4 and of course going to next year, we're definitely going to be looking at even bigger numbers. Now, the reason why this is so important is that firstly, if we take a look at the short term, what contributed to this week's numbers, especially this weekend, has obviously been the Taylor Swift film. Now, we've already talked about how an increase in box office is obviously very beneficial for AMC, especially talking about how efficient the market structure is. So they're able to make more money. But not only that, it's the fact that AMC film distribution was behind the Taylor Swift film. So we've already talked about this, but it's just to highlight the importance of it. Now, in terms of the long term, it's talking about how this is obviously signaling the box office is only going to grow. It's going to get even bigger, and AMC is only going to make their market structures even more efficient. They're going to make their operations more efficient to the point where even if we don't see an increase in box office, we are going to be looking at an increase in profit. And so if we pair that up with then a increase in the box office, you will see how that's extremely good for AMC, and is why we're seeing more and more accumulation. If you can see here, I'm super happy with the rather large AMC position I've gathered over time. To my mind, it can only be a matter of time until someone with financial muscles and interests aligned with AMC apes will exploit the situation short sellers got themselves into. So when we take a look at this, one of the best examples you can obviously give is, of course, the Volkswagen squeeze, which was between two institutions, one on the long side, one on the short side. But when we take a look aside from that fact, and in terms of talking about the interest with financial muscles, the interest with institutions, is that we are already seeing so many different firms who are accumulating AMC. We've already shown that with the charts, we've shown that with the data. But not only that, what we've also seen is how previous short sellers have also switched their short positions into long positions of AMC. And so it is only a matter of time before all of these open short positions will be closed, the ones that we can obviously see within the filings, and what's left will be the hidden short position, the synthetics, the FTDs. But when those time comes, we're going to be seeing even more accumulation with these institutions. And just like Stefan has said here, it will only be a matter of time until we see someone who wants to trigger that short squeeze, who don't care about these fellow institutions, because right now institutions don't want to trigger the short squeeze because they don't want to bankrupt the institutions who are on the short side. But if we are able to see an institution who just don't care about any of this, who jumps into this and wants the short squeeze and bankrupt some of these firms, that's when we'll really see the trigger. Now, this won't be the only way for AMC to squeeze. We've talked about multiple different things. This is just talking about one understanding and one factor of what could obviously happen. Now, talking about institutions, talking about accumulation, you have to see how AMC is growing. Now, we've already talked about how the box office is growing and how AMC has made their structures extremely efficient. But not only that, they're trying to obviously do more things. You can see here is the timeline. Firstly, Adam Aron recently stated AMC could invest in AI. Now, there's multiple ways you can obviously go about at this. One of the biggest things in terms of which they want to do is, of course, the AI in terms of translating the movies so that it reaches an even bigger audience, and of course, that would increase revenue. Then we're also having the recent cancel Netflix train, where we talked about these particular things happening, and in terms of how theater still stays relevant. Theater is a recession-proof stock, and we're seeing how stocks like Netflix, these subscription-based services, these online services, are getting cancelled, and you can see the comparison between the two, and you truly understand where we are at. And so this is why we've said how well AMC has positioned themselves. And of course, there are so much more to this as well, but you can understand why institutions have tried to position themselves within AMC for the longest time possible, because they see where AMC is positioning themselves for the future. And then you can see here, in terms of the opportunity there is, we can see AMC, remember pre-split, it can be pretty fast. For those of you who don't believe that AMC is able to move, for those of you who don't believe that AMC has that power, you can obviously take a look over here where AMC was able to move up 95% in one day. And remember, AMC went through this and did this and had to go through so many things that all these other stocks didn't face. We've seen countless times before. We've seen how a stock can go up 1,000%, even 4,000% in one trading day. Yet when AMC even goes up 30%, it's faced with multiple holds. And so this is what you have to understand. It's because they realize that AMC can easily double, triple, 4 times within a day. They know that. But they also realize is that even if AMC were to double, even if AMC were to go up 50%, then multiple short sellers will start to see losses go up in the tens of millions, potentially even in the hundreds of millions. And so it's why they allow these stocks to go up 1,000% in a day, yet they fail to let AMC move freely, and not hold them only after a 30% move. And so this is talking about understanding the power that AMC has. It's about understanding the potential, and it's why we've always said AMC can easily bankrupt these shorts, and it's only a matter of time. And you can see, and this is pretty much everyone's opinion, especially for the apes. Why wouldn't I buy a company that owns the most screens in the world, has one of the most loyal retail shareholders ever, is paying off debt, adding new revenue streams, and stock is only $3? Sounds like a steal to me. And so when you take a look at AMC, and for those of you who don't believe that AMC is undervalued right now, that's completely fine. However, one thing to know, and this is the one thing I want people to give me some explanations, which if you think that AMC is undervalued, which once again, completely fine to think that, even though I disagree, but if a company who's worth $3 at its current state, and then in half a year's time, we're able to pay off the debt, we're able to increase the revenue, we're able to increase their profit, was able just to better themselves, and they still stay at $3, would you then consider that undervalued? And if the answer to that question is yes, then you take a look at what has happened to AMC throughout the last 5 years, and then come and tell me that AMC is not undervalued. And you can obviously see why we've said that it has always been the steal, is why we realize that AMC has always faced a loyal retail shareholder base, is because we realize what is obviously going on. And then when you see in terms of why we've said it's undervalued, it's because it's always faced with suppression. Once again, 62% off exchange. No need to go further into this. We already understand the impact of dark pool, but this is just to make sure that everyone understands is that we are still facing dark pool manipulation. But now here's the interesting thing. GameStop warrants. Now, GameStop warrants is something we've obviously been keeping a close eye on because we talked about how deadly this can be. When the GameStop warrant was initially announced, we saw how a brokerage in South Korea was talking about forced liquidating GME shares. A brokerage in a country who's extremely against naked shorts had to force liquidate any GME shares. That already tells you a lot about what's going on. So we already knew it was going to cause some turmoil, whether it's volatility or in this case, wherever it is these issues. You can see breaking. GameStop shareholders report inconsistent warrant deliveries from Robinhood, Fidelity, and Schwab. Now, once again, some names in there that you will be familiar with, because of what they've done in the past, especially Robinhood over here. The very fact that they are having issues with GameStop warrants should already tell you everything. And it's no surprise that every time these brokers have errors, it's to do with either AMC or it's to do with GME. And we're seeing this again. But not only that, you can see first Robinhood and now E-Trade is down for many users. GME stock warrants are wrecking these over leveraged brokers. And so another broker on top of that. We are seeing so many different brokers being affected by these warrants, and these warrants are supposed to be very easy. Remember, this isn't something that GME suddenly announced. This is something that GME has stated before this, and has obviously given these brokers time, and so they would have technically prepared themselves for it. But yet when it comes down to it, they are not having the correct time, they're not having the correct operations, they're all having difficulties, and it's no surprise because when you take a look at the fact that they have to offer a warrant for anyone who holds at least 10 shares, and then they can't match up with, so they prepared themselves for however many shares that they've issued out, but when they take a look at how many shares are actually there, they found out that clearly it's not the case, and this is very likely for why the problem is happening. And so the very fact we are seeing brokers failing should already tell you what is going on, and we could be looking at the forced recall of certain shares, especially from these institutions, because they need to make sure that they can get the warrants correct. As always, notice that every financial advisor do take advice and salt. Make sure to do your own due diligence and research, and I'll catch you guys next time.